Welcome everyone to day 3 of the Power His Success Virtual Summit to redefine success and what it means for you as a woman on your own terms. I am super excited to be here with you during the week. We have 25 amazing women who all share their stories and their insights on how you can make decisions on becoming a whole different woman in this day and age. And I'm super excited to have a powerhouse of leadership and voice with me today. Dr. Karen Jacobson is with me today. She is a former military commander and she is a competitive ballroom dancer, and she leads whole stages into alignment, engagement, and powerful performance. And I'd love for her to give us a little bit of an insight on how you have ticked all these 3 boxes, because it is certainly not a linear career. So please let us know how you became all these things.
Oh, thank you. Thank you, Tina, and thank you for asking. First of all, an honor and a pleasure to be here and to be included in such a lineup of amazing, amazing women. It's funny because when I talk about what I do, I talk about alignment, but really for me, my career and my passion and my history really aligned to create the balance of what I'm doing. And what I mean by that is I was a non-commissioned officer in the Israeli army. And when I moved back to the States after several years of being away, and I chose a career, I became a chiropractor initially, which focuses on alignment as well. And my passion has been Latin ballroom dancing, which, when you talk about dance and elegance, everything is around posture and alignment. And at one point, I really found that all of those things have alignment in common, which is the essence of everything that I do. Being able to take the aspects of maybe commanding and military, which might have more of a masculine side, and taking competitive Latin ballroom and have more of a feminine aspect, and being able to marry and align those and include them in the background that I have from healthcare, and able to sort of marry the two and create that harmony between masculine and feminine, and be able to pull out each when necessary.
That is certainly a valid point, because I think a lot of the structures we find ourselves in when we define success, it's often power from the top down rather than power from an inner place. And high performance can often feel a little intimidating, because it feels like you constantly have to be on. How do you define high performance in your terms?
When I look at high performance, it's not really about constantly being on. It's about coming up and showing up as your best. Mm-hmm. And really being able to tap into your skills, your strengths, your talents, and bring them to the forefront. Look, even as a high performer, we're going to have days that we'll be fatigued. We're going to have days that we might have challenges and we might be down. But how do we cope with those days as well? How am I going to let that day control me, or do I take over and create my day?
That's powerful. And have you changed over the years in terms of what your day, how you take control of it? And there's a lot of boundary setting that is required to be able to be in alignment and have the days that suit our lifestyle.
What I do with my days has changed and yet has not. And what I mean by that, I have certain habits, rituals, a process that I use to start my day. I'm sure one of our lovely speakers has probably spoken about that, about how to start your day and how to really create some balance. And I talk about some of those habits that help us become high performers and more effective. But I'll start my day with meditation and workout and contemplation, gratitude, journaling, good nutrition, to really feed my body, mind, and soul. What changes, and what has changed throughout the years, is the time of it. When I ran my chiropractic practice, I might have been at the office by 7:30 in the morning. So everything had to start earlier. As a matter of fact, there was a point where, hey, I was at the gym, heading over to the gym at 4:45. That doesn't happen anymore. But I still follow that same ritual. And I call it a ritual because to me it's sacred. So whether I do it at 5:30 in the morning or I do it at 7:30 in the morning, it still sets the same tone for my day. And I've been practicing those for over 30 years easily.
Wow. Now, how did you make the transition from chiropractor to what you do today? Was there a journey, or was it an instant decision for you to move into something different? Was it a calling?
Oh, it was a struggle. And it was a struggle for a couple of reasons. Look, I always thought that in life we might just have that one calling. And I realized that we don't necessarily have that one calling. And when I think about it, I think about when I was a kid. When I was a kid, I was a math protege, and I wanted to be a math teacher. Yeah, I got over that pretty quickly. But I was also from a young age, I was also a performer, and I loved the stage, and I sang, and I did some, acting in all the school plays, and I loved dancing. And I had this vision when I was a kid. I actually wanted to be on Broadway.
Wow.
And yet, I wanted to be a teacher. I also wanted to be a writer. I started writing stories actually from the time I was very young, and, put essays in kids magazines. And, I remember I won a helicopter ride for one of them. So when I looked at those were some of the core essences of what I wanted to be. And then at one point, my calling was to help people because of my journey. To sum up the journey, I was 17 years old, was diagnosed with systemic lupus, was in and out of hospitals for 4 years, and healed naturally. And the contributing factor was the chiropractic journey that I've been through, which is why I had that calling to become a chiropractor. But here's the thing. A chiropractor, a doctor means to teach. I was teaching. I was delivering at the time wellness classes. I was teaching. I was performing. I was practicing my art. And then at one point, we had a local television show here in Arizona, and I got the stage bug back. And not only that, I wanted to get back on stage, but there was also a part in me that, opposed to working one-on-one with everyone, I wanted to deliver and have bigger impact, more people at the same time. And through that journey, I started moving back into the professional speaking and being on stage and sharing a message. Now, originally, I spent a whole part of my life in wellness and healthcare. My journey into messaging was leading people, and I still bring in aspects of it. But really, my whole platform has been for years, even as a chiropractor, I was always in leadership positions and in positions where I got to teach and train others. It was taking that to the next level to have bigger impact.
I like that. Certainly your presence on stage is like, it radiates off that stage. So you're natural on that one. You use your beautiful, powerful voice. And I know for a lot of women, being expressive in their voice and their desires and what they want is sometimes a really difficult obstacle to overcome, because we've often been told to keep it down and to be in line, fall in line. How have you honed your voice over the years, and how do you keep it feminine without coming across too overly aggressive?
Thank you for that question. That's a great question. And the aspect, which first of all, what I talked about, the aspect of being able to hone your feminine and your masculine, and being able to understand communication and how communication lands with other people is what makes a difference in that. One of the things that I also do, part of my expertise is in professional behavior assessment. And that basically means that it's really understanding how we show up, why we show up in different ways, and how we express ourselves. And when we have the opportunity to better understand ourselves, we also know that we can come from power, not from force, because force is pushing. Force, if I attempt to force and I'm not really speaking in my authentic voice, I can come off in a way that is going to repel people. But if I can hone all aspects of me, the masculine and the feminine, marry them together and come from a place of personal power and be grounded and anchored, my voice will come out very differently.
Mm. I think the masculine feminine is a beautiful lineage in terms of bringing it into cohesion. And I certainly can relate to having too much masculine and not enough feminine. And maybe it's an age thing, at least for me, it was on my journey to be able to marry the two and be okay with not being overly forceful, because I think that's what sometimes performance and success gets associated with a lot. And I love the idea of the ballroom dancing. Obviously, I would like to know how that came about, because dancing is a feminine thing and we don't do it often enough. However, when you go into ballroom dancing, there is quite a lot of structure in there. Tell us a little bit about how that works.
Not only there's structure, but there's also freedom in the structure.
Mm.
You know, when you looked at being able to set certain boundaries in order to free yourself to express. I've always been the first one whenever there was a party or a celebration. I was always the first on the dance floor and the last one to leave. And the movement, the dance was always in my blood. Several years ago, I was part of a mission that went to Panama and served when I was still in my chiropractic practice. And at the time, some of the people locally taught me how to dance salsa. Mm-hmm. And just the Latin music, the passion behind it, it's one of those things that when I just think about it, it just, something rises in me. And as soon as I came back, I'm like, I'm taking lessons. And but it was funny because even my approach towards ballroom, and I'll never forget one of my first conversations with my dance teacher. And he's, we both had very similar backgrounds. I grew up in Israel, grew up in war. He was from Bosnia, grew up in war, was in the military. And we talked about the dynamic even in dance, where there was a movement and we were like, I literally remember the specific place in the room, and he stopped me and he said, look, dance, we're painting a picture and each one of us has our role. As the man, my job is to be the frame, to paint the beautiful picture. That also means that you're going to let me lead and stop leading. But that was where, I had to learn how to surrender. And I had to learn how to step into more of my feminine side and step back from charging. And within time, when I look back at my journey in dance, that created so much change within me and so much growth that I'd been able to experience that kind of precipitated outward too.
That is beautiful. How have you put the experiences from ballroom dancing into your work as a leadership coach and mentor? How has that transpired? Was it gradual, or you danced around your environment and go, oh, I've got this all inside me now and I'm now radiating it out? How does that translate to leadership and empowering others around you?
When I started, when I made my career shift and I started talking about, I thought about the dance, because the dance of leadership, because leadership is a dance. And the truth is, whether you're female or male, you have to embrace energy from the opposite. So men should have the ability to embrace aspects of their feminine energy, whereas women should also embrace aspects of their masculine energy. But it's creating that dynamic flow that allows us to know when to pull out more energy than other times. As an example, if I'm in crisis and I need people to follow, I'm not going to go into my feminine energy. I'm going to go into the masculine, tap into my masculine energy, use that voice in a more commanding fashion, like, we need to go, we need to do this now. Once we're out of crisis, and I might need to manage the people reactions around me that may have gotten emotional, I might step back and move more into my feminine voice and support the ones that might have had challenges because of the crisis.
I think that would resonate with a lot of people in the audience, because I think we have this idea that feminine energy is being feminist, and I think we have tried to emulate certain structures and they are inherently masculine. How do you, or what would be your takeaway for the audience to go, okay, if you do not quite understand masculine, feminine energy as yet, what's a great way to start? If you're in maybe a male dominated industry and you'll have a senior executive role, and where's a point to start, unless they all going to take a salsa class and also get into a more dance? Is there something in the work environment? How can you be more aware and sharpen that awareness of when you may need to step out and take a seat back without it feeling disempowered?
So that's one of the reasons why we want to be able to identify our own authentic leadership voice. And when we look at the different behavioral styles, there are going to be some that are going to be more dominant and more take charge, and some that are going to be more of the quiet side. And then when you marry that with emotional intelligence, of being able to not only manage your emotions in a given situation, but also be able to read a social situation and manage the relationship, then you have the ability inherently to know which part of your voice you're bringing out. See, we all have all of those. But it's when do I tap into part of me more than others? And that is what makes the difference.
I would imagine that if you manage to do this at work, it will flow into every part of your life, and the skills that you have can then work with your family just as well as your community, your children. It really is a holistic way of looking at success, not just in a work environment. I really, really enjoy your angle on framing that. Now, you touched on emotional intelligence. What is your key cornerstones on how to bring emotional intelligence into the workplace when you work with teams in particular?
Have some. So I'll give you an example. I'm working with I'm working with a company, and I'm coaching the two owners. I'm doing some executive coaching for both owners, a man and a woman. He's more on the driver type of side, where he's high data, fast pace, risk, etc. And she's more of the social butterfly. Now they complement each other. And each one of them needs to have their voice refined a little bit. So when we were working with her, she admittedly, she said, there are times where I know I get too emotional, and that's not necessarily, she goes, I get to be like a mama bear, and I protect the company and I protect my kids. How do I balance that voice, know when to use it, when not to use it? And so, first of all, kudos for her on the awareness of the fact that at times she might be using her voice business-wise and become reactive, where it doesn't necessarily reflect greatly on the business or on her. But by the same token, how does she step more comfortably and own her voice? And that was some simple tip. Okay, we're going to work on how do you respond as opposed to react. Because reaction comes from emotion, response comes from logic. We all have fuses. Some of us, it might be easier to tap on our fuses and light our fuses. For some of us, it might be more challenging. If I can identify the trigger and know the fuse, I can also identify what I need to do. Maybe I need to take a deep breath and pause before I react, so that I can actually compose myself and respond. And as a female in the workplace doing that, especially in a leadership role, that can make all the difference, whether you get to the next level or not. Because no one in business would like to see somebody who is a quote unquote hysterical female. But if you're composed and you are logical, that's when you will draw in people and she knows what she's doing. She's solid.
I think it is definitely something you notice as soon as you have somebody that exude power. The minute they walk into a room, there's a presence, and great leaders do not need to be the one talking all the time. And that's the dance with the voice. Of having one doesn't necessarily mean you have to use it all the time. How do you bring teams together? I mean, you work with organizations and bigger teams as well. How does it work with giant teams in terms of organizations on a larger scale?
Yeah. So when I work with large teams and I do team development days, we will go into aspects, especially if we're looking to gain understanding of the essence of the team members, what drives us, how we behave, how we relate. Then we will do a typical day might be to take a team, whether it's an executive team or a senior leadership team, and run assessments for the different team members. And then when we do whether it's a retreat or whether it's a team development day, we will review them where each one can actually hone in onto their own skills. But now we're working and see how we interrelate. And so we will do something called a team wheel, where we see, I'll give you an example. I worked with a transportation company, and one of their biggest challenges was they had problems with customer service complaints. They were on top. They were the number one in corporate with all their KPIs, on-time driving, safety, etc. But they had some challenges with their customer service. And we did this team development day. We did a team retreat for their senior leaders. And as we're looking, and somebody said, hey, we don't have anyone that is more of that influencer, or in my model, which is kind of like a basic one, more of that cheerleader, more someone who is all about the people. We have more of the logical side. And they realized that was a gap that they had in their leadership team that would have been the customer service manager. And so the next step was, we sat down, we did with the stakeholders, we did a benchmarking process, and we hired a customer service manager for the team so that can help them solve the issue, because it's someone that had that thought process and that mindset that the rest of them were missing in the balance of the team.
That is interesting. Thank you for sharing that with us. Now, in terms of your key takeaways on if a woman would like to go and redefine success, what are your 4 nuggets you'd like to give to them in terms of where to start?
I would say when you're saying success, defining success is different for each one. So first of all, define for yourself what is successful for you. For one, it might be climbing the top of the corporate ladder. For the other one, it might be being able to reach a certain point and have a family that has certain goalposts and goals for that. So there is no one set idea of what success is for that level. But while you're looking at what is success for you, know yourself. That basically means understanding what your drivers, your inner motivators are, what your skills are, what your talents are, and how much are you willing to do and how much are you willing to work in order to achieve your goals, in order to gain that success, because success is nothing without action taken to achieve it.
I like that.
And then the other thing is being able to have that growth mindset. We are, I always say that, we're work in progress until we're done. And when we're done, we're gone. And so being willing to be open to receive feedback and being willing to step outside your comfort zone to grow. That being said, also being anchored to yourself, because you never want to see a situation where, somebody's going to give you an advice, you're going to go in one direction. Somebody else gives you an advice, it might be different, you're going to run in another direction. And always being okay with where you are until you get to the next level.
Thank you for that. That has been certainly an amazing conversation. I love the takeaways from Dr. Karen. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us today. I'm pretty sure the audience is going to go and look up what you do and see you on stage sometime. And I hope that you had lots of takeaways and some enlightenment. I'm getting some beautiful light shining at me, in case you're wondering why that all goes a bit strange. If you would like to know a little bit more, there's links at the bottom. Go and check our group out and become a VIP Power Sister and have access to all the trainings that each of our speakers have provided, and be part of the community and give yourself permission to redefine what success means to you. Thank you.